Anthony Edwards has had a really dramatic week in the NBA. After having a bad stretch of games, he found himself in some hot water after he said this to the media.
I don't know, man. That was a good brand of basketball, but it's not how I want to play, of course. I mean, I'm only 23. I don't want to just be passing the ball all night. You feel me? But the way that they guarded me, I think I had to, so.
I was gonna say, how hard is it to just stay engaged?
Super hard, yeah, super hard. I mean, because I'm wired to score the ball.
And then after that criticism, he would respond by averaging 40 points per game. All of that and more on this edition of NBA News. The first NBA News of 2025. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. If you're over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and drop a like, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you want to enjoy this show as an audio-only experience. We got a lot of new things coming for you this year. There's going to be an announcement video on it soon, so stay tuned for that. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this week's news. My main takeaway on this comment from Anthony Edwards was that I think the subtext of it was more important than the actual text of it, but people primarily focused on criticizing him just simply for complaining about double teams, because of course, double teams are a part of the game. I don't think Anthony Edwards was unaware of that. I feel like that is almost a level of taking him at his word or looking just purely at his word that comes to the point of, do you just think he's stupid? Obviously, Anthony Edwards is well aware that double teams are a part of the NBA. He's been double teamed a million times already at this point in his career. However, the volume of double teams that Anthony Edwards has been receiving this season has skyrocketed by contrast to the past, and that is in large part due to the construction of this roster just being fundamentally different than what it was before. Julius Randle is not a super effective spacing threat, especially when you compare him to Karl Anthony Towns. So teams are more comfortable bringing two to the ball because if the end result is a 35% three-point shooter gets open, it's really not that big of a deal. On top of that, Mike Conley has been much worse this year, and that does not help, especially with Ant having to take on more ball handling responsibilities. So really, the subtext of this statement from Ant was criticism towards his own team for how the construction of the roster has affected his play style. And I think that criticism is completely valid. Obviously, he can't just say everything that I just said out loud, but that's what I personally think he was actually complaining about, because when you track down the reason why these doubles are happening, why he would even make a comment like this, it's because of Julius Randle not being Karl Anthony Towns at the end of the day. Still one of the worst trades I've seen in a very long time, and it will probably continue to be. But after this, Anthony Edwards had a 53-point game against the Detroit Pistons, which the Timberwolves managed to lose, which is not great because it's like, okay, on one hand, if Ant's not scoring, we're not winning. But on another hand, if Ant's scoring, we're still not winning. For what it's worth, Cade Cunningham matched this performance with a 40-plus point game of his own. But it's not exactly a very good sign. They have since beat the Clippers and the Pelicans with a 37 and 32 point performance from Anthony Edwards, but I don't think the double team problem is going away anytime soon. A large part of the reason why his three-point volume has increased to the degree that it has is just trying to get a shot up before he's surrounded by defenders. So yeah, the poor spacing, the fact that there's a lot of congestion inside the paint, especially they're going to step up on those threes now even more the more he's doing that, knowing that the ball is probably not going to find its way to an open player. And if it does, that open player is probably not going to be all that competent at making the shot. So yeah, I'm on Anthony Edwards' side in this. I really think a lot of people reacted to this in a way that was unreasonable. I think Ant was actually subtly talking shit about his own team. Whether or not he should do that is a different conversation, but at the very least, let's have that conversation rather than this one. Ant knows that players get double teamed, believe it or not. Not only did he manage to just ball out, a lot of it came with this orange wristband that he got from a young fan who was battling cancer. Apparently, he said that he was going to be wearing that wristband for the rest of his career, so that was really cute. The Cleveland Cavaliers and OKC Thunder had a historic matchup just a couple of days ago when the 15-game win streak, OKC Thunder, not counting the in-season NBA Cup tournament. 15-game win streak for the Thunder, 10-game win streak for the Cavs, was just the third time in NBA history that two teams on a 10-plus game win streak have ever played against each other. On top of that, both of these teams are on pace for 70-plus wins, so a historic matchup. We might literally have two 70-win teams in each conference this year, and it was not disappointing at all. Really fun game. Cleveland ended up coming out on top, a lot of it stemming just from the fact that Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen was too much for Hartenstein to deal with alone on a team that otherwise just does not really have a big man. Jalen Williams is a nice guy, but I don't think he's a rotational piece in a matchup like this. Really fun game. We're going to be doing a breakdown of it in tomorrow's video, since this is a very big game on top of it being a good one. So look out for that. We're going to start doing film room videos on Fridays specifically. But yeah, Cavs versus Thunder. If you didn't watch that game, do it. Seriously, what a game. Real quick, our players of the week. We got Nikola Jokic in the West and Jason Tatum in the East. I'll be honest, dude. I don't think Jason Tatum should have won it for this particular week. I would have given it to Cade Cunningham personally, because his numbers have been great and the Detroit Pistons have been winning a bunch of games. At 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists is actually kind of down numbers for Jason Tatum. Not going to argue with the 36, 16, and 11 for Nikola Jokic. He can have that one. But I don't like that Cade did not win this. I think that was a pretty weak pick. Speaking of Cade Cunningham, take a look at some of his numbers this year. He is now the front runner for the Most Improved Player Award. He also just got is that a signature shoe or is it just a signature logo on a different shoe? And they're like, gonna give him a signature shoe. I'm not sure the background there, but I love the logo. The logo is absolutely sick if you look into the details of it. But yeah, his numbers last year, his points per game up a little bit, his rebounds up a ton, his assists up 2, his threes have gotten a much better, specifically as a pull-up three-point shooter. And as I mentioned, the Detroit Pistons have been winning some games lately, and they are now, I think, at 500 or above 500, which I thought that the Pistons would be better this year. I wasn't sure that they'd be quite that good yet, but they have been because of this leap from Cade Cunningham. Yeah, dude, why the f didn't he win Player of the Week? The Pistons have won 8 of their last 9, and Cade's numbers are more impressive than Jason Tatum's. That was what? Who's voting on this? That was a whack-ass choice, truly. That wasn't a week ago, but he had a 2018 and 11 game in there. Had a 40-piece against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just a terrible choice. It's Player of the Week, so who cares? But like, God, bad pick. Coach of the Month going to Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland and Mark Daigneault in OKC. That is as obvious as it gets. A 12-1 record for both of those teams in the month of December. Yeah, just hard to argue. The Player of the Month for December going to SGA with his 33 point per game average, and Karl Anthony Towns got the Player of the Month for New York with 23 and 14. Dude has just been awesome for the Knicks this year. I'm surprised Giannis didn't win that. I guess the fact that the in-season tournament does not count as in the statistical category, like if it did.
You keep getting this confused. It's not that the in-season tournament doesn't count towards the regular season. It's that the championship game doesn't count. That's what I mean.
Just
the game.
Not just the game, it's the tournament games
no,
too.
The tournament games are all regular, fully counted regular season games. The 83rd game is just the championship game that goes into the mysterious, nebulous Nowhereville that the play-in tournament goes into, because it's not playoffs or regular season. It's not the whole in-season tournament. I promise you.
It's just the bracket, but it's the bracket, not just that game. Where the fuck is this? I guess it's not. What?
I promise you. I've tried to straighten out this confusion with you on the show before. It is just the championship game that doesn't count towards the regular season. The whole in-season tournament is an in-season tournament. You just get it twisted with the other tournament that's not the playoffs, the play-in, which is neither playoffs nor regular season. I know
that. I was under the impression it was every round of the actual tournament. I would have thought it would at least be the conference matchup when they actually go to Vegas. But whatever. Yeah, I guess I got no beef with that, especially because Giannis missed 4 games in December. I forgot that this was even a thing. Defensive Player of the Month, Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr. Again, no beef there. Is this the other nominees? Is that listed in order of who came the closest, or is it just listing the other people that were considered?
I don't know. You got to talk to the people at NBA PR for me to figure that one out.
All respect in the world to Kamara from Portland, but no fucking way. Not a fucking chance he was the second best defensive player in the entire Western Conference in the month of December.
Let me ask you this, because I saw this following the Cavs win last night. Is Evan Mobley or Jaren Jackson a better player right now?
I really think the difference is pretty negligible. I feel like I trust Jaren as a three-point shooter a little bit more, and that's about the only difference, honestly. If you want to use that as a reason that Mobley's a better rebounder. If we're talking about big man, that ultimately matters a little bit more. So I don't know. Either way, both of them should be all-stars. That's all that I know. Evan Mobley especially. Speaking of all-stars, this is a second slate of fan voting, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Jason Tatum and Giannis leading the front court conversation in the East. LaMelo Ball getting number one is crazy. I wonder how much, I guess, what's the timeline here with the LiAngelo Ball song dropping? How much did that boost LaMelo? But I think he was number one in the first slate.
LaMelo was first in the first
anyways. What I guess LaMelo's just like clips are going crazy. That's the only thing I can think of that would justify that. I mean, Charlotte's fucking awful. They've been bad. And like my theory of like LaMelo Ball's good enough that they can be in a playoff conversation just as long as he's healthy. Well, he's been more healthy than he has been in the past, and they're still nowhere near that conversation at all. So I'm shocked that he's as high as he is. I didn't know the LaMelo Ball hive went so hard in 2025. SGA and Steph leading the guards in the West, and Jokic and Durant and LeBron leading the front court in the West. Not really any major surprises in this mix here. Andrew Wiggins, the fucking K-pop fans are still riding strong for Andrew Wiggins. Oh, man, that's funny. Yeah, Jordan Poole getting more votes than Darius Garland's crazy. What are you doing, Cleveland? Like, Cleveland fans, y'all can do better than this. That's crazy. NBA ratings discourse has been a huge part of this year, rather unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, because, we made a big deep dive about it after the finals last year, and I was just hoping that would be the end of it. But I honestly think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, how much it's been happening. Another large part of that discourse that I think has gone under-mentioned is that the people who are participating in it, the people who are making content about it, are the people who are a little bit more scared for NBA ratings being down just because of their own personal well-being in terms of their job. I think that is a part of it that is not being mentioned a lot. It's like, yeah, the ratings being down doesn't really hurt the NBA. They're making their money either way, but it does hurt reporters and fucking NBA YouTubers a little bit more. With that said, I covered this a little bit in my NBA Christmas Day game recap. If you want to check that out, it's one of the more recent uploads. But their views were up 84% versus 2023, which is obviously a rather huge spike. So hopefully that is a sign of tides turning for the better. I also think that OKC Cleveland game was pretty fucking huge as well. There was a lot of beef between JJ Redick and Charles Barkley. Here is Redick saying, "I don't think we have done a good job of storytelling, of celebrating the game. If I'm a casual fan and you tell me every time I turn on the television that the product sucks, well, I'm not going to watch the product." And that's really what has happened over the last 10 to 15 years. I don't know why it's not funny to me. While Redick didn't specify which voices he was referring to, the celebrated former players on TNT inside the NBA, Kenny Smith, Barkley, and Shaq, are often cited as the most prominent critics among the league's partners. Me being one of those people that is often citing them for that. So here is Charles Barkley just immediately making the point that JJ Redick was making.
He said something about we're the reason people ain't watching this crappy product we got. That's JJ. Yeah, like we out there jacking up 103 tonight. JJ, you just a dead man walking.
You came out there thinking you was going to change things with that same ugly girl you went on a date with.
61 was your halftime score.
Let's
get back to the highlights. And Rudy Gobert.
So he came in there thinking, I can make this thing work. Yeah, you can.
77, 70
Niggas on that pig.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to point out the Lakers are the 6th seed in the Western Conference, which is just a 2-game difference between the 4 seed. I think there was a later clip that went viral of Charles again saying the Lakers fucking suck. I don't know why the Lakers suck, but the Nuggets and Mavericks are just way better because they have one more win. So that in itself is stupid. The other thing that I would like to highlight, first of all, Charles just directly calls it a shit product, which don't do that. Just don't. On top of that, you hear fucking a desperate Ernie behind all this horseshit, trying to actually talk about the game that he is paid a lot of money, as Charles is paid a lot of money to talk about. I've gone in on this crew a lot, but man, first of all, that was so much insecurity. JJ did not specifically mention TNT, but I think it's pretty fucking apparent how clear it is the level in which they shit on the product, given the fact that he made that connection on his own. It is sad. It is disappointing. It's bad for the product, and I am very glad they're not going to be at the forefront and they're not going to be the main show that the NBA is selling anymore. I don't think they're that funny. I don't think they're funny enough. And even if they were, let that be a show if it needs to be, but it should not be the show at the forefront. The NFL does not have their commentators just be a bunch of guys dicking around and making fun of how the basketball isn't how they wished it were, like it was back in their day. It is a disaster. On top of that, here we have, again, so soon after all of this criticism, here is Charles saying this horse shit about LeBron's really nice dunk against the Dallas Mavericks.
It must have been a beautiful play. We showed it 22 times.
You don't think that play was worth it?
Not 22 times.
From the 40-year-old LeBron James.
It was a
40-year-old man.
It was a very nice. We didn't have to show it 100 times.
We ain't got hey, we got a bunch of 40-year-olds in here. None of them are doing that.
No,
you dunk like that?
Whatever.
Yeah, man. Why are you underplaying it? What benefit does that serve the league in any capacity to just be like, all right, here's a cool play. Let's cut to some guy fucking hating on it. It's bad. It's a bad product because these dumbasses are making it worse. I'm so tired of the TNT crew. So tired of them. They are a negative to the sport. I don't care if you think they're funny. They are not a good product to consume. It is not good media. It is especially not good for selling a product. Fuck the TNT crew and fuck Charles Barkley. That's my take.
I didn't make it all the way through the clip. I got to be honest with you. My resting heart rate is probably 64. I watched the clip. It was 64. Literally don't care. I have other thoughts, but don't care.
I love the comment. I love that he doesn't care what anyone thinks, and he's always mad. Back towards the NBA rating stuff, here is another interesting thing that someone pointed out on Twitter. The Stream East numbers being as high as they are. Meanwhile, YouTube TV has pretty much been a steady plane where like a large majority of the NBA product comes from. Yeah, I just think this is a big part of it. Like the ratings discourse, I love participating in it. And I think the Charles and the TNT shit that I just went off about plays a large part. But it is mostly just illegal streaming. I think another thing that would really help the league is if they just made the product more accessible. But I've jumped on this soapbox a million times now, and it's starting to break. Zion Williamson has returned, and he looks remarkably in shape. Like, I can't believe he looked as heavy as he did in that tattoo video a couple of weeks ago versus what he looks like right now. This was actually our play of the week. We're going to be doing a play of the week for these news videos every week going forward, so look forward to that. Okay, now's the part where we get in trouble. So Dwight Howard was recently on a podcast, and he talked about a time a couple of years ago back when he was in Houston, when he had the audacity to tweet "Free Palestine."
When you're in the NBA, it's a lot of things that you want to say, that you could say, but you know if you say it, there's gonna be repercussions. You could get in a lot of trouble. For example, a couple years ago when I played for the Houston Rockets, I tweeted "Free Palestine," and I dang near got kicked out the league for it. And I'm like trying to figure out why, you know what I'm saying? I didn't, obviously, before that, the conversation happened with some Palestinians, and they were telling me, I actually went to the movies one day. I was in the movies in Houston. A whole bunch of Palestinians was like, "Hey man, we're big fans of you. Can we watch movies with y'all?" So I'm like, cool, man. You know, when I was in Houston and Orlando and a lot of cities I played in, I would take fans to movies. I would take them to main event, do big events at David Buster's and stuff like that. So we go to the movies. After the movies, I'm taking pictures with all the, you know, fans and stuff like that. And they asked me to just bring some awareness to what's going on in their country. So, you know, me having a big heart, I'm like, the
Christian thing to do.
Yes, I'm like, you know what? I want people to know the struggles y'all having. You know, I don't think it's wrong. So I tweet "Free Palestine." Less than 10 minutes after I tweet that, I get a call from the commissioner of the NBA.
Stop it.
Agents, people like working with my foundation at the time, Texas, you got to erase this tweet. You got to take this down. You're going to get it. I'm like, what did I do that was so bad?
Can somebody explain to me?
Yeah, can somebody explain? You know, and it was just like because I went against the grain. I said something that people didn't like. And I, you know, now.
Not people didn't like, they didn't like.
So now it's like I got to stand on what I believe and how I feel and not go back on it.
Yeah.
And when you're in the league, you be in that place where if I say too much, or if I say something, I may not get a job no more.
That's like 70% of people that's out the league that got you.
I gotta hold my tongue, and that's so hard to do when you are faced with so many situations. You have things going on that may be outside the court. You might have situations with your teammates or the team going on, and you can't really speak on. And then I just got to a place where I couldn't trust nothing or nobody. So it's like I'm not gonna say nothing, do nothing. And then that was a problem too, because now other people are speaking for me.
All right, this is going to be a pain in the ass because, I mean, is Israel-Palestine not literally just considered the most pain in the ass thing to talk about just from like a everyone's going to yell at you point of view? I'll say this first of all. I utterly, unabashedly, without an ounce of hesitation, support Palestine. And I agree with Dwight Howard on this. Free Palestine. I am, man, I talked about this to myself in my head to try to get the words correct as much as possible because there's really no way to do it without people yelling at you. And it's unfortunate because I really don't think the take tens of thousands of civilians being killed is unacceptable. I don't really care what happened before it. Now, obviously, Dwight tweeted this before October 7th, but Palestine has been in need of freedom ever since the Nakba in 1948, the 40s, whenever that happened. A lot of people champion the NBA. A lot of people champion the league as like being more progressive than the other leagues. You know, when they put Black Lives Matter on the court back in 2020. But the NBA is only as progressive as what is popular and what will not get them criticized. While in America, there are more people on Palestine's side than Israel, the billionaire owners, the mega rich people in this country are overwhelmingly Zionists. And as a result, you're going to get shut down as soon as you try to share a political message. And this has happened time and time again, especially since October 7th, you say something positive or you support Palestine, which again, tens of thousands of civilian deaths. I believe the number is over 100,000. There isn't a series of words you can string together that justifies that. There is not. So, yes, I don't want to endorse Dwight Howard as a person because, believe it or not, that big controversy that happened with him a couple of years ago wasn't just because he might be gay, but he's right about this. He's right about suggesting that you should free Palestine. I have been vocal about it on Twitter, but I haven't really had much to say on here about it because I know it'll get an overwhelming amount of people just shitting on me for it. But again, I'm sorry. There's just nothing you can say. I realize this conflict is controversial, obviously, but I don't even like using the word conflict because if you look at the death count, it's not much of a conflict. It's a genocide. Sorry to bring politics onto this show, but if you have an issue with me saying any of that, I'm really not all that upset about losing you. All right, to move to something a little less serious, Jimmy Butler seems to be wanting to force his way to the Phoenix Suns specifically. Here's a tweet from 3Cone saying, I see no way the Heat take Beal's money so that they are going to have to find a third team, but there's no team that I can think of willing to take that money where Beal would also be willing to waive his no trade clause. So I guess everyone's stuck. Yeah, that's pretty much a fair assessment of this current situation. I don't really have anything to add beyond that. Go follow 3Cone on Twitter and on YouTube.
You don't think a Beal for Butler swap is plausible? I saw some reports, I don't know how much to believe them, that were saying that Beal would be willing to waive it to go to a place like Miami or, whatever else the report said. But Miami's the only one that matters.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the guy's head. I couldn't tell you. We will know the answer to where Beal is okay waiving his no trade clause for when he does it. Until then, I don't know. On top of that, in the midst of a 4-game losing streak and tension in the locker room, Phoenix decided to remove Beal and Nurkic from the starting lineup, adding Mason Plumlee and Ryan Dunn into that starting lineup. So yeah, I definitely think we have the tides are about to turn in Phoenix. There's definitely going to be a video about that coming out soon. Gonna try not to hit the I told you so button so much, but gonna happen a little bit.
Did you hear the conspiracy that this is an effort to get Beal to waive his no trade clause? Even though he's still playing 30 minutes a game, they are putting him on the bench. Maybe he would want to go somewhere where he's not benched.
I'll be real. Maybe he doesn't like it. Bradley Beal is best as a sixth man at this stage of his career. I think regardless of if it's trying to make him leave situation, one way or the other, Bradley Beal is not a great starting option, and he's certainly not a great starting option on this team where he is remarkably redundant. Would rather have a Ryan Dunn type out there who, by the way, his 3-point shot fell off of a cliff after a hot start, which I told you would happen. But at least he plays defense, and at least he isn't, a third player on the floor who loves to hunt for mid-range shots whenever possible. LiAngelo Ball released a song. You probably know this by now. It's been fucking everywhere, but Rudy adds slides to these sometimes. I'm like, what do you want me to say? LiAngelo Ball released a song. I don't care. It was funny, though. Victor Wembanyama was playing chess in Washington Square Park. Where is Washington Square Park?
New York on Christmas.
Yeah, I thought this was just New York. So I don't know the detail. I thought it was Central Park. There's more than one park in New York?
There's more than one park in New York.
You learn something new every day.
He just tweeted out, "Hey, I'm in Washington Square Park. If you want to play chess, come through." And sure enough, people showed up.
Yeah, that's dangerous. I hope he had plenty of security. He's probably fine. He's not a healthcare CEO. At the very tail end here, I'm just going to quick rapid fire some notable injuries. Larry Nance Jr. out until February 20th for Atlanta. Cam Thomas out until the end of January for Brooklyn. Grant Williams out for Charlotte for the season. Luka Doncic out till February 2nd. Kyrie out until January 20th. Exum out until January 20th. So a lot of big injuries for most of the month for Dallas. They're probably going to slip a little bit in the standings as a result of that. Jaden Ivey is going to be out until at least March 1st, and realistically, probably a majority of the season. Kuminga out until February. Jabari Smith out until February 21st. That's quite a stretch. PJ Tucker's not with the team. Jared Vanderbilt out at least till the middle of January. The Grizzlies are close to actually having a 100% clean injury report for the first time in several seasons. Ron Dillingham is out until January 15th for Minnesota. Rob, not Ron. The New Orleans Pelicans are very close to also having a healthy 100% clean record for the first time in I don't know how long. I'm not a Pelicans fan, so in-depth research from Rudy behind the camera over here. Mitchell Robinson is, at this point, I would say he's going to be back at the end of January, which could actually be huge for New York. I'm interested to see how he fits into that equation. Chet Holmgren out until February 10th, and Jalen Suggs is a game-time decision, which isn't news. Paulo Banchero being a game-time decision is very much news, though. That's nice that he's back. Franz is going to be back in just a couple of days. So the two best players on Orlando, which have still managed to be okay without them, they might have a late-season surge where we're having some conversations about them that have mostly just been postponed so far due to injury, and Jared McCain is going to be out
for the season.
Man, Paul George has been so ass this year. Just looked at his stats real quick. I was like, is it gotten better? Nope. Not really. Let's see.
We actually got through this video a lot faster than I thought we would. I thought this would take at least an hour, but right now the recording time is only at 36 minutes.
Good for us. All right, well, that's it, right?
That's it.
Bye.